Hey there, I'm Ken. This is Canadian Retro Things. I hope everybody out there in the watching YouTube world is having a great day. Today, I'm going to play with some Commodore 64s. I've currently got 3 Commodore 64s, one that you've met in a few previous videos, and 2 that I've recently picked up in the last few months. Now, the 2 that I've recently picked up in the last few months are untested, so I have no idea what working state they are in. And one of them isn't even complete. But, yeah, we're going to look at all 3 of them today and see what we can get working and what is, going to be a challenge to fix. All right, well, before we meet today's starting lineup, I have to give a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. PCBWay, where you can get PCBs printed starting at only $5 for 10 boards. Today, I'm working on some Commodore 64s. If you want to take your C64 project to the next level, then PCBWay is the place to go. Just go to the Shared Projects tab, type in Commodore 64, and you will find there is currently 141 different projects ready to order. Not finding what you want? Design what you need yourself, and you can have your PCBs printed starting at just $5 for 10 boards. So if you're looking for or have a Commodore 64 hardware project, PCBWay can help you. So visit PCBWay today at www.pcbway.com. The first thing we're going to do is introduce you to tonight's lineup. So are you ready to Commodore? In position number 1, we have a Commodore 64 that it boasts a complete and working keyboard. This computer hails from parts unknown until it joined my collection about 2 years ago. You may recognize it from such videos as my very first Commodore 64. On the inside, we have a 250425 board. We have many socketed chips, and this computer enjoys working when it feels like it. That's right, I'm still having the intermittent problem with this computer that it will work fine, and then all of a sudden, not work at all. Zero, zilch, no signals on the board. A dead test cartridge gives you absolutely nothing but a black screen. Coming in at number 2, we have a very dirty Commodore 64 that looks like it doesn't have a complete keyboard, but I have the key that it needs right here. It does have a broken stem, and the keyboard is untested. This computer hails from VCF 2023, where I picked it up. On the inside, we have a 240407 board, and it is missing a PLA chip. This board is also untested, just like the keyboard, so we don't know what to expect from it. It is going to be a mystery on whether it works or not. And coming in at number 3, we have a bare Commodore 64 board hailing from Boatfest 2023. This is another 250407 board. Unfortunately, this one has almost no socketed chips on it, so it will not be a lot of fun to work on. It is untested, so again, we have no idea what to expect from this board. Will it work? Will it not? I don't know. All right, here we go. We got my C64 number 1 all ready to go. Now, I have been playing around with this a little bit, so it's warmed up, and I'm about 90% sure it's going to turn on. And there it is. The problem that I have with this computer is if it's been sitting for a while and I turn it on the first time, it doesn't turn on. But as soon as I click the power off and then back on again, it starts working. After I've left it going for a while and played with some games and stuff on it, the screen will start to distort a little bit, and then it will go black. So what does that tell me? It tells me that there is a chip somewhere on this board that is right on the edge, or a part that's right on the edge. Could be a capacitor, could be anything. And yeah, unfortunately, when it's in this state of working, everything passes with flying colors on all the tests. And when it's dead, it's completely dead. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to take my Retro Rewind diagnostic cartridge, stick it in here, and just let it run through a bunch of times and see what happens. By the way, I will put a link down below for Retro Rewind. Great place to shop, especially if you're in Canada, because you don't have to pay to get things across the border. He is located in Toronto. By the way, also not sponsored. I just like his products. And here we go. Let's let this run for a while. And you can see that there is a couple things showing up there as bad, but they always show up as bad probably because I'm only using the cartridge and not all the loop back pieces and stuff. But we'll just let this run for at least a few counts. I've been letting this go for well over a half an hour, and everything seems to be ticking along just fine. Oddly enough, before this computer would have started crashing by now. Let's go put some heat sinks on this thing, because after running for a half an hour, there's a few warm chips on here. Almost 40 minutes now. I've got board number 1 here ready to go. It's a little dusty. I'm only going to put heat sinks on the 3 chips right now. I've got a weird little mix and match group of them here. So I'm going to be very colorful. I was thinking about putting them on the ROMs, but yeah, I don't know. Let me know down in the comments, should I put some heat sinks on the ROMs? All right, well, let's get some heat sinks on these, and they're all self-adhesive, so they got little adhesive pads on the back, so if I can peel them off. Now, I did want to do one more thing while I'm here. Back when I originally either got this C64 or I got my very first VIC-20 that needed the C64 style plug, I did buy a power source for it. And a while back, when this computer first started acting up, I was testing the voltages on this board, and I got some very unusual voltage readings. So what I did, I went out and I got myself a different C64 power brick, just in case something had gone wrong. So I'm going to check the voltages again, and I'll tell you what I had noticed before compared to what is there now. Especially now that the computer seems to be running better. Okay, so we'll give it power. Now let's check some voltages. So the first thing that we will check is that there's 5 volts coming to the LED. Yes, then we'll check these voltage regulators. Just over 12, that's right. And oh, we've got about 5, perfect. Now, this is where things went wrong before. When I tested this voltage regulator before, it was getting something like 35 volts or something like that. And now 24 volts, that's still a bit high, I think. It should be getting around 20. But on its output, .4. I think that should be 12 out, so that doesn't seem right. So let's check over here. We should have 5 volts coming in here. Okay. Well, one thing about it, it's quite hot. That one should probably not be getting that hot. Thinking we might have a problem with that chip. Just give me a second here. So, this voltage regulator is currently running at 24 degrees, 25 degrees. This one is currently running at 43 degrees, 44 degrees Celsius. So I think there's something wrong with that voltage regulator. Let's change it. Just got to go see if I have the part that I need for that. I have here my 7812 voltage regulator, which will be going in this spot right here. So, time to desolder it. So I got the old one out, ready to put the new one in. Interestingly enough, I did actually look up the specs on this. The input voltage on this is within spec. It's a little high, but within spec. Output voltage way off. So I think that's bad. There we go. Everything's in place and ready to be soldered in. Little flux to help it out. Now, time to give it a little power again and see what kind of voltages we're getting. Just double check the board to make sure I didn't bridge anything. Hey, it turned on, nothing exploded. That is always a plus. And we are getting more than 20 volts still. So the maximum on these chips is supposed to be 27 volts. We're getting 23, which sounds good. Output 11.9, and it should be 12, which is, let's go a little more precise, 12.1. So, new voltage regulator. Now, did that voltage regulator go bad because the other power source dumped too much power into it, or was I getting a bad reading because the voltage regulator was bad? I don't know. But it's working properly now, so big plus. I guess the only thing to do now is to hook this computer up and play a bunch of games on it to see how it works. And here we have computer number 2, the one missing the PLA. I'm going to be using this one today, which is the PLA actually out of my first computer, so let's just put that in. I should have another PLA around here like this one, and I should also have the original PLA from my first C64. Unfortunately, I cannot find those right now. I spent some time looking for them, and my conclusion is that when I was messing around with these, it was at my cabin, and I think they're still there. Unfortunately, that's a 32-hour drive, so I'm not going there just to get one chip. So I'm just sharing. All right, here we go with its first test. And it's nothing. It's a black screen. Okay. See what happens if I put the diagnostic cart in. Will it read from the cartridge port? And that is a negatory, but you can see there's a little bit of a line on the side of the screen. That seems to happen with all my C64s when I turn them on. So there is an attempt at a signal going through there. And a little shimmer when you turn it off. So now the great thing about my C64 diagnostic cartridge from Retro Rewind is flip it over and it's a dead test cartridge. And it doesn't look like it's going to give me any flashing either. Which possibly means that we've got a bad VIC-2, a bad 6510, or a bad PLA, and I know the PLA is not bad. So that one's socketed, that one's not. But the first thing we'll do is take this over to the bench area, the work area, and test out the voltage rails to see if we're getting the proper voltage through this computer. So even when a dead test cartridge or a diagnostic cartridge does not work, you can still get some information about what might be going on. And here we go with computer number 2. So this is the one that is completely black screened with nothing coming through the dead test cartridge. So we're going to start off by checking some voltages. Always a very good thing to start off with on your Commodore computer. Are we getting 5 volts to the... How about I turn it on first? There, we'll see if we're getting 5 volts to the LED. 4.6. Now we'll check the voltage regulators. 12 in. 4.97 out. Again, more than 20. 22 in. 12 out. Pin 40 on the VIC-2. 4.96 volts, pin 13. 12.05 volts. Check up here. It should be 5 volts. 4.6, that's a little bit low. By the time the power is getting to this end of the board, it's a little bit low. Okay, you know what? I am going to dedicate an entire video to going through this board and trying to figure out what's going on. We know that the power going in is approximately correct. Power getting to the VIC-2 chip, correct. Power getting up here, a little bit low. So somewhere between the VIC-2 chip and up here, things are dropping that shouldn't be. And now it's time to move on to the bare computer. On this computer, there is only 3 socketed chips. There, there, and there. So I don't know if that was done aftermarket or what, but it is still got the RF shield on the back soldered into place. So I'm going to be taking that off at some point, but let's test this computer out. Oh, look at that. Well, this one works too. At least this far. It works this much. So let's turn that off. Time for the diagnostic cartridge to give it a couple of runs through to see what's going on. Same chips as normal are reporting as bad. Oh, by the way, I do have the volume turned off on this right now, so it's running the sound test right now, but how about after I stop talking, I'll just splice in what the sound test sounds like. And there you go, that was the sound test. So I'm just going to let this run for a little while again, just to let it run through a whole bunch of times and see if anything happens. And then I'm going to plug a keyboard into this and yeah, see if that works or not. I will use the known working keyboard, then I can test the other keyboard to see if it works or not. Okay, we've let this run through a bunch of times and it appears to be working. So we'll turn that off. Disconnect you. This is my known working keyboard. We'll even hook up the power light. All right. Quick little program. That all seems to be working just fine. Next thing to try out is a game. I have here my Kung Fu Flash cartridge from Retro Rewind. Not sponsored. All right, I think I have this all finally sorted out. I have the keyboard kind of sitting off the board so that I don't short anything out. Power light is working. Got Chucky again. Yes, one. There. It appears to be working just fine. I do love this game. It's one of my favorite games on the Coco. And I also have it, obviously, for the Commodore 64. So this machine seems to be working just fine. I think something I might do with this machine is put it in the case of the one that doesn't work. So let's test out the keyboard of the one that doesn't work. See if that keyboard works or not. My guess is it's so dirty, it's gonna definitely need to be taken apart and cleaned. All right, here is the really, really dirty keyboard. Power light works. Nope. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, well. Yeah. That keyboard's going to have to be taken apart and cleaned, and the case needs to be cleaned too. So, let's get to work doing that. And now it's time to start on probably the least glamorous part of working on retro computers. Probably one of the most tedious too. And that is cleaning and getting a keyboard working again. So first we'll get it out of the case. Try not to break any of the standoffs off. So these screws are just ever so slightly longer than the ones that hold the board in place, so don't get them mixed up. There we go. Now this case is going to go get washed and hopefully cleaned up as good as possible. To get these keyboards apart, if you've never done it before, you do have to desolder these two little wires here. And then take out all of these little screws. So I won't make you sit through that. I'll be back when I've got this apart. 23 little tiny screws later, it's time to take this off. So once it's off, you got your bare board here, which this one looks pretty darn good. Probably doesn't need to be cleaned, but give it a little brushing anyway. And now the fun starts of having to take each one of these little keycaps off, or key pieces off. And the way to do that is taking each of the keycaps off. And I do have that key here. This is a broken stem, so I'm going to have to do this all over again on my parts keyboard so I can get one stem out of it to use. And if you look at these, they've all got a little rubber piece on the bottom that bridges the contacts here when you push down on the so got the board here, you got little rubber pieces on the end there. They bridge the contact when you push down. Usually when it's not working, it means these are gunked up a little bit, so the best thing I've found to do is to just take a plain piece of paper like this and just rub them on it, and that tends to get them to start making contact again. All right, let's pull a bunch of keys off. The keycaps are all off, and you can see just how filthy this thing is, so it's going to get a good cleaning. I have all the springs and the key stems in here, so I'm going to have to go through and rub each one of these on a piece of paper to get them hopefully working again. All the springs are in here, except this one, which is for the keyboard, because the keyboard one is slightly larger than the other springs, so I don't want to get them mixed up. And all the keys are in here, so I'm going to have to put some water in there and then go through and scrub each one individually. But we have this key here, which has a broken stem in it, and I am going to have to take another keyboard apart to get a stem for this key right here. But we're going to try and fix this right now, get this broken stem out. So how are we going to do that, you ask? Well, I'm going to attempt to take this nice pointy little screw here and try to screw it into the broken stem bit a little bit. See if we can melt a little hole in the center just to get this started. There we go, it worked. So what I had to do was melt a little hole in the center of the broken piece, screw the screw into it, and get that piece out. And finally, after a couple of hours of scrubbing, I have individually scrubbed each and every keycap, so they are much cleaner. And then I have gone through and cleaned every stem. I actually used a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on a cotton swab, wiped it off, and then rubbed it on paper just to so it makes a better connection. Now, you may be looking at this and thinking, why do I have it sitting on 2 multimeters? Well, that's just to keep it off the ground a little bit. This is the best way to put these keyboards back together. So you can slide all of the key stems in place and then put your backing back on and then flip it over, and then the springs and the keycaps, and you can put that on easily. When I put the backing on, I'm only actually going to put a couple of screws on because I have I want to test it out first to make sure it works, because yeah, that way it's easier to take apart and clean the stem pieces again if they're not making a good connection. All right, well, I'll see you after I put all these back in together. I have the much cleaner keyboard hooked up to the computer that it's going to be going with. Let's test it out and see if it works or not. Yes. The shift lock key will not be working yet because I don't have it soldered on, but it works. So put the rest of the screws in this, put it, solder the shift lock key back into place. That's the 2 little wires on the back. And then I can put it in the nicely cleaned case, and you can see what it looks like. And ta-da! There it is. That is the case from computer number 2 combined with the board of computer number 3 to make one fully working C64. And I do have to say it cleaned up rather well. Just in case you've forgotten, here's what it looked like to start with. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. In the immortal words of Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So I've got my original Commodore 64 that seems to be working better, and I did find that slight power problem with it, so maybe that was a problem before. So the only way I'm going to be finding out how well that computer is working is to go and play some games and stuff with it. And then I managed to combine my other 2 computers to make one complete working computer, which means I just have one more board left to work on, which will be in an upcoming video. Hopefully I can get that one going, and I have some ideas what I want to do with that board. Oh, and in case you're wondering, in the one that I built out of combining 2 and 3, I did add a few heat sinks to it, just to make sure that things don't overheat in it. All right, well, that is my Commodore Palooza video for today. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, don't forget that liking, subscribing, and commenting below are all things that help out the channel out a lot and are greatly appreciated. Okay, well, yeah, like I said, I have to go and play Commodore number 1 and test it out to see if it's working properly now. So, yeah, I got to do what I got to do. That's going to be a few hours of game playing, so I will see you in the next video.